You want me to get started? All right, welcome everybody to the Flannery O'Connor Book Club, sponsored by the Flannery O'Connor Institute for the Humanities. And I guess we only have one real announcement, which is the next book club and the last book club of the semester. It's going to be, did you say May 18th?
May 15th.
May 15th. And the topic is, what is it? Sorry, I wrote it down.
An introduction to A Memoir of Mary Ann.
Okay, I'm useless as a
I will bring pictures of Mary Ann Long, morally questionable as that is, and show you what the child was dealing with. And
Okay, that's helpful. Thanks. We're gonna have visuals. And
we'll
so
have
we'll have that last book club, and then we'll have a hiatus for the summer. And then we'll stay tuned. We have an email mailing list and book newsletter, and we'll keep you updated about fall events. We're wrapping up all of our busy academic year of birthday celebrations and conferences. And so we're winding down here. And so without further ado, I give you Bruce Gentry to lead the book club discussion for the day.
If you see any copies of the March 31st New Yorker lying about, you should steal them.
Is that the cover?
This is a copy that a friend of mine gave me. I have yet to receive my copy for my subscription. I have received 2 New Yorkers published after this one, but this one hasn't shown up. And I have called the New Yorker and expressed my opinion about that. We'll see how that works out. And we should also wave about that the catalog for the art exhibit of Flannery O'Connor's artworks, I guess, is available at the Center. And I believe most or all of the art is on display right now in a somewhat smaller space than where it was for the official big opening. But you can see it all if you're willing to drive to the interpretive center. So things have been pretty exciting around here with all these O'Connor events. Okay.
Yeah. And I'll add, I'll put up the link for Flannery at 100. There's a gallery, if you didn't make it to the art show, a gallery of photos, press clippings. You can see all the great press we got. And if you want to order the catalog, there's a phone number for the Andalusia Farm Interpretive Center, and they are taking orders by phone.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
Yeah.
Take orders. Center. Okay. I'll have to remember to tell people that. Okay, so tonight we're talking about some aspects of the grotesque in Southern fiction. It's one of the major pieces in Mystery and Manners. Some people just love Flannery O'Connor's essays. They find them inspiring. They find that they help them write. Creative writers like this book. I will admit right up front that over the years I have teaching a course on Flannery O'Connor. I have told the students always it's very important that you read Flannery O'Connor's essays. Do it on your own time, and let me know if you run into a question, if there's something you want to talk about. And I have always felt that I had trouble adding something to what Flannery has to say in the essay. How do you have a discussion about the the essays? What I find myself falling into is what I'm going to do tonight, which is to be picky, to look at these essays and think about ways in which they aren't necessarily consistent, they aren't necessarily complete, they might not really describe what she's doing in the fiction. I look at I have fun looking at the essays as sources of questions and problems. I've never had anybody say to me, gee, I didn't understand Flannery O'Connor, and then I read her essays and that cleared it all up for me. And that I take some sense of vindication from that the essays are very smart and they have all these wonderful one-liners, you know, dropped in every so often. Not just this one, but you know, a lot of her essays are like that you can't forget. And yet there are questions, there are problems. And you know, 99% of the time, I think the questions and the problems just make me go back and read the fiction somewhat more attentively. So it's worth doing. But anything anybody wants to bring up tonight, you should feel free to, you know, wave your hand or do something in the chat function. I guess I should turn that on. Yes, there are 3 things in the chat function already, and I'll count on people to make sure we get to everything that everybody wants to get to, because I think we do have time. Okay, I made a list of like 5 things to bring up. One is that Flannery being Flannery, it seems to me one of her themes is uh, distancing herself from what she's doing. I mean, she's brilliant. She can theorize about how to write fiction. She can talk about her relationship to other writers and how they inspire her. She can write well. And yet, she starts off saying, oh, well, maybe you don't want to hear a creative writer talk. Maybe that's just not a good idea. Maybe I should, you know, all I should do really probably is just tell you what I experience as I write something. I shouldn't try to theorize about fiction. I don't really care much about theory. Doesn't do much good. Um, later in the essay, she will say what the culture, she will try to describe what she thinks the culture wants from creative writers, that writers should show the culture who they are, what they're up to, and then guide them in a good direction. Remember that? And Flannery says she wants to have nothing to do with that. That's not any good for her. She just wants to write a novel that's her kind of novel, weird as that's going to be, and nobody should ask for any benefit from it. Well, okay. I'm sure there are plenty of people in the world who've gotten benefit from reading Flannery O'Connor, but she pushes away the idea that she has much of a responsibility to her to her reader. And then at the end of the essay, or toward the end, she says another thing that's kind of remarkable, and I think she's right, that the novels of the future that are going to be significant are the novels that are totally alike. What about the novels that have been written in the past? And so she's kind of pulling the rug out from under everything she's going to say, because who cares about the novels of the past? She cares about the novels that she's trying to write right now, and the future is going to do its own thing. It's going to be completely different, and probably should. It shouldn't try to follow some guidelines that Flannery O'Connor is going to give them for how to write a novel. And I take all of these disclaimers with a grain of salt. Another disclaimer is the famous line often quoted about William Faulkner. Okay. Um, you don't want to have your horse and buggy stalled on the tracks when the Dixie Limited comes roaring through. Okay. In that same paragraph, she says, writers are inspired by other writers. And yes, we know that Flannery O'Connor was inspired by William Faulkner. We got a manuscript sitting in special collections of a passage that ended up in Wise Blood from the first chapter, where she is very obviously pushing herself to try to write like William Faulkner. So she decided to stay away from him after she tried to imitate him and saw how that wasn't going to work out, so well. So she kind of says opposite things. Literature is very important to how you get started writing. And on the other hand, sometimes you have to say, I'm not going to imitate, I'm not going to be like somebody else that's out there. Uh, this is all, kind of rhetorical setting things up that Flannery's doing. Don't expect much, folks. And then she writes this essay that has all these really interesting ideas. And this is one of the essays that gets quoted most often in criticism, and that's partly why I picked it for tonight's discussion. But she's always playing this. She's always playing this game with us, saying, "Oh, I'm not that smart. You don't want to listen to me." But of course, she does. She's. I'm sure she had a great time on the lecture stage. Um, Now, I will say that one of the few ways in which I've ever agreed with Caroline Gordon about Flannery O'Connor's writing was that Caroline said to Flannery at some point that maybe it wasn't a great idea for her to be spending so much time on giving lectures and writing essays, that might be having a not great effect on her fiction, that maybe her fiction would be a little better if she just stayed away from all this theorizing and all this talking about the writing of fiction. And I'd say, well, okay, she wrote this essay in 1960, and 1962 and 63, that's when Flannery went into her kind of semi-writer's block period. One could make the case we might have a couple more stories, or she might have finished the third novel, Why Did the Heathen Rage, if she hadn't accepted quite so many checks for going here and there and giving talks. You know, I think she's a real good writer. I think she's a good essayist. I think she says interesting things about fiction, but it doesn't come from the same part of the brain that the creative writing comes from. And, one sort of thinking can maybe get in the way of other sorts of thinking, other sorts of creativity, other sorts of imagination. Okay, that's my first topic. Topic number 2, realism. Flannery says all writers want to be realistic, no matter how much they aren't. That's still really the goal, that they should get to the point where the reader agrees, this is the real world I'm being plunged into through this writing. I guess there are different kinds of realism, and some of it's good and some of it's not good. And then Flannery's also going to lay on us this kind of oxymoron that you get to real realism through distortion, something other than what we normally think of as realism. And she basically says if she writes about average normal people, In other words, if she does what her mother wanted her to do, write about nice people, if she writes about average, normal people, the game is lost. She's not going to be able to say anything that's worth saying. So there's this kind of realism she dismisses, and at the same time, there's this other better kind of realism that she, along with everybody else in the world who's a writer, is striving toward. Um, okay. Um, Now, another complicating factor is, did Flannery O'Connor write about average people? I would say the answer is sometimes. I had a graduate student, Susan Presley, who did her master's thesis on um, how did Flannery's instruction at Georgia State College for Women about child development affect her writing. And Susan concluded that based on what was in Flannery's textbooks, and she did study child development, all of her little kids in her fiction were like what the textbook said you should expect from a kid of that age. She wasn't wildly distorting reality as she understood it when she wrote about children, at least. I guess you have to grow up into your into your weirdness. But sometimes she thought, when she was writing, apparently, that looking up, what can you expect from a 5-year-old or an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old in terms of these behaviors and these beliefs and these sorts of ways of talking. And Flannery followed those. It's very close to what she rejects as not worth doing, writing about the average person. So there's a big difference. Well, I guess a lot of people have picked up on this. There's a lot of difference between the way Flannery O'Connor writes about children and the way she writes about adults. And that might be one of the keys, is that with children, she's more traditionally realistic, and with adults, she's more of what she calls romantic, distorting reality to try to get to a higher truth. She has one version of realism that she really dislikes, and I think this is supposed to be realism, and she makes fun of it by calling the school of Southern degeneracy. This is probably what Flannery is thinking of when she thinks of the term Southern Gothic, which she, wanted to distance herself from. Well, what's that mean? Writing about people about the ways in which people are degenerate in all sorts of colorful ways. And Flannery apparently looked at her fellow Southern writers and said, that's what they're doing. They're just writing about what's wrong with Southerners, and I don't want to do that. She might create a bunch of characters who look pretty degenerate, but Flannery's saying, oh no, the goals are different. The way this all adds up in the end is not at all the same. And I can understand that point of view. The way I understand that point of view is to force myself to remember what it's like to read Erskine Caldwell, where I feel as if degeneracy is what's being sold. Look at these disgusting Southerners and how ridiculous and evil they are. And let's laugh at them and disapprove of them. And I'll stick a paragraph every once in a while saying I sympathize with their plight, but really it's a freak show of the worst sort. Sorry, Erskine Caldwell. Every once in a while you write literature, but that's not how you got famous. And Flannery is distancing herself from that. That's kind of where I can say, okay, I can understand that that's something Flannery doesn't want to be a part of. She doesn't want to be confused with. I think she still read Erskine Caldwell and imitated him some too, but that's another story. Okay, how do you reconcile? Can you? It's a struggle for me. all this comment about realism and non-realism with her one-liner, can I find my book? Um, Her one-liner about the North, how Northern readers take things. Is page 40 in Mystery and Manners, is what I'm grabbing first. Okay. Mhm. When we look at a good deal of serious modern fiction, and particularly Southern fiction, we find this quality about it, that it is generally described in a pejorative sense as grotesque. Of course, I have found that anything that comes out of the South is going to be called grotesque by the Northern reader, unless it is grotesque, in which case it is going to be called realistic. Well, that's a funny line. I've heard that quoted over and over and over and over and over. I hear people read that line at academic conferences, and it always gets a big laugh from, English teachers across America. Does it really make any sense? Or is it just, a good joke? Did Flannery O'Connor really believe that Northerners were going to miss the point? That they were going to be confused about what's uh, realistic and what's not? There is that moment in Galley Proof, the film interview that Flannery did when she was in New York City as A Good Man Is Hard to Find and Other Stories was coming out, where she was asked about the Northern reader, and she kind of implied that Northern readers might be better readers than Southern readers. Why? Because they're not going to think that the fiction is about the South. They're going to be more open to taking a broader view of things and seeing more profound themes, as opposed to Southerners who are just going to say, "Oh, I feel insulted by this. This reminds me of my aunt, and Flannery's making fun of her, and I don't like that." Uh, Flannery has it both ways. Sometimes she's pro-Southern, sometimes she's pro-Northern, sometimes she's anti-everybody. And, there's some kind of sense to the line. But, this is Flannery O'Connor, who borrowed from William Maxwell at the New Yorker a lot of the figures in his nonfiction about eccentric people wandering the streets of Manhattan, and she put them into her fiction. She took Northern people and made them into Southerners. How can you say that there's this tremendous gap between North and South in that case? Okay, so Uh, yes, there's a realism of a sort that's good, and there are people who think about what's realistic, and it just leads them astray, and they're just asking for the average, the typical, the boring, and a lot of the time Flannery's not doing that. To a large extent, I explain this all to myself by saying Flannery's feeling kind of defensive, and you know uh, making her case that what she's doing is okay. To some extent, she's thinking about her mother. Why don't you write about nice people? Don't you think that God wants you to write things that a lot of people would like? Stuff like that, Mama would say. She gave this talk originally at Wesleyan College in Macon. She said she was going to revise it for publication, but she never got around to revising it for publication. But she was thinking of a Southern audience when she wrote this. So some of the gags about Northerners might just be in there because she's writing this for a Southern audience. And if she had been talking to a Northern audience, she could have said something quite different about the difference between a Northern reader and a Southern reader. Okay. And we can go back to any of that if you want to later on. One of the things I found interesting that I had forgotten is in this essay, and I say this partly because a colleague of mine seemed to me to get a little upset about Flannery O'Connor the other day, um, as insisting on a Catholic worldview to uh, for her writing to make any sense. And I was a little surprised. I was a little surprised by that reaction. Although goodness knows I have run into it in a number of places. Flannery is too Catholic, and I was struck by passage page 41 in Mystery Manners, page 815 in the Library of America edition, where she says, "What do you get if you write in the 20th century and you're not religious?" And of course, she's going to shift back right away to how much fun it is to write from a religious point of view. But she doesn't say you're just going to end up with a bunch of worthless trash that's not worth reading. No, she says that kind of writing could result in tragic naturalism of worth. It's not a total put down of anybody who's not writing the way she does. And I was pleased to come across that passage. I'm glad that Flannery didn't write tragic naturalism. I don't think she did. I'm glad she didn't. But I'm also pleased to see that Flannery is not saying that her way of writing is the only way to write. That there's room for different responses. Okay. Then we got some pages, let's see, 42, 43 in Mystery Manners, 817 in the Library of America, where she gets kind of what, theoretical about the grotesque. And I want to visit those lines for a moment. Not because I've got them figured out, but because I find them, I find them real interesting. Okay, let's see. There's that quote we have to talk about. Oh yeah, okay. At the top of the page on 817. Yeah, let's read from the bottom of 816 to the top of 817, okay? Even though the writer who produces grotesque fiction may not consider his characters any more freakish than ordinary fallen man usually is, his audience is going to, and it is going to ask him and more often tell him why he has chosen to bring such maimed souls alive. Okay, we're kind of back to, why don't you write about nice people? Why don't you write about normal people? Why aren't you more realistic? What good is this grotesque thing anyway? And then she quotes Thomas Mann. It seems to me I ran across something somewhere who said Thomas Mann didn't say this, it was somebody else. Well, whatever. Thomas Mann has said that the grotesque is the true anti-bourgeois style. Well, there's a kind of theoretical comment, isn't it? But I believe that in this country, the general reader has managed to connect the grotesque with the sentimental for whenever he speaks of it favorably, he seems to associate with the writer's compassion. Now, that's a whole other topic. Flannery is saying, I'm on the side of the view of the grotesque that says that to some extent, it's about a class war. She's not on the side of the people who are moneyed, the people who are comfortable, the people who are like her mother and herself, who do have enough money. The kind of art she can make live pushes her toward being on the side of the poor folk. That's really interesting. That might explain a lot about Flannery, is that she knows she can write art that says things and leads her in directions where she might not entirely willingly go. You know, you can apply that to race, you can apply that to class, you can apply that to gender, you can apply that to all sorts of things where the issues for Flannery get kind of tangled. Now, I'm real comfortable with the idea that Flannery O'Connor's writing is always on the side of the poor folks. I may be too comfortable. I may be too comfortable with it. Um, it's just kind of become a knee-jerk reaction when if somebody's poor, she's more likely to be on their side in a piece of fiction, and there must be lots of exceptions to that. Now, a question to me, and I don't know if I know the answer to this. Would you say that has anything to do between the grotesque, the Southern grotesque, and the Southern Gothic? Does the Southern Gothic have any different sort of social stance than the kind of grotesque that Flannery is talking about here? Well, I wish I was smart enough to figure that out. To me, it's just an interesting um, question for me to, contemplate my next incarnation. Because I don't think I'm gonna figure it out anytime soon. Now, notice also that this paragraph ends with a swipe at compassion. I'm going to try to figure out something smart to say next month about compassion. Right now, I'm just a little upset on the concept. I was listening to a podcast, I guess you could say, radio show. It's stored as a podcast, a radio show talking about how right-wing, political, religious folks are promoting the idea that Christianity doesn't really teach compassion, that we've kind of kidded ourselves about empathy, compassion, trying to understand other people as a good. That's not the way to go. We've been too empathetic, we've been too compassionate, we've been too nice to other people. Time for Christianity to get meaner. This rather horrifies me on a gut level. And one of my fears, this is where I'm just, spilling my guts out here right now. One of my fears is that the people who talk this way are going to try to make Flannery O'Connor into an ally. And I don't like this at all. And I think, okay, I got to spend the next month worrying over this stuff. I think I can do it. Worrying over this stuff because if Flannery seems like she's, anti-compassion in this essay, wait till you get to next month. An Introduction to a Memoir of Marianne, just preview of coming attractions. An Introduction to a Memoir of Marianne is the essay that Flannery insisted was the essay you have to read if you're going to understand her. And it's also the one in which she says, if your compassion doesn't have its source in the true source of compassion, which most people read as Jesus, if your compassion doesn't come from Jesus, well, then it just leads to the gas chamber. This is as close as I can think of to something Flannery O'Connor wrote that I just say no to. And I'm happy to spend the next month trying to tap dance around and try to figure out how she didn't mean what it sounded like she was saying, or how I can get myself out of worrying over this too much. And And also, what do I say if somebody comes and starts talking about how Flannery O'Connor would just love public demonstrations of a lack of compassion? Uh, oh, by the way, I should mention to everybody in the audience tonight that I'm one of those people who's been fired by Doge. We just had our oral history grant here at Georgia College. Um, Canceled, everybody's money is gone, and we were told to stop because what we were doing was not in the interest of the United States. So it takes a little while to adjust to that news. We thought we were doing something really cool. And, it's one thing to say, the money's gone. Sorry, we can't afford you anymore. It's another thing to say what you're doing is not in the interest of the United States. And we've all got to put this in the processor and live with that for a while and come up with clever things to say about it. So I'm looking at Flannery O'Connor, who's famous for having a great bullshit detector and famous for being tough and famous for not being loosey-goosey. I love everybody no matter what they do. I respect all of that. And yet I sense that attitude that I mostly love when it's coming from Flannery O'Connor can be pushed to an extreme and is being pushed to an extreme where it becomes quite scary and unpleasant to me. Okay. Let's go back to a famous one-liner because I don't know anything else to say about that bit. Think about compassion for a month, folks. Think about empathy. Okay. Bottom of that same page in the collected works version of the essay. This is just going to be a little repetitious. Whenever I'm asked why Southern writers particularly have a penchant for writing about freaks, I say it is because we are still able to recognize one. Well, that's another one of those lines that gets quoted all the time, always gets a big laugh. It sounds like, she's proselytizing for the dear old Southland and saying Southerners are really smarter than Northerners, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And she goes on with it. To be able to recognize a freak, you have to have some conception of the whole man. And in the South, the general conception of man is still in the main theological. That is a large statement, and it is dangerous to make it. For almost anything you say about Southern belief can be denied in the next breath with equal propriety. Okay. When she's talking about the school of Southern degeneracy, Southern writers who don't write well, I don't think she's talking about what she admires in Southern writers in this paragraph here. Sometimes all Southern writers are wonderful because they think theologically. Sometimes all Southern writers are fools, other than me and William Faulkner, because we sell out the South. We make fun of Southerners for the entertainment of mass audiences, book clubs. Did you see that line about, that's another place we've got to go. The reason we have this book club is that Flannery O'Connor had one in her dining room, invited people over, and they sat around and talked about books. And so, for all these decades, we've been saying we ought to have a book club. And then, here's Flannery O'Connor saying, oh, no. People want to be lifted up. And if you get a whole bunch of people together and they all want to be lifted up, well, then you get that worst of all possible things. Oh, a book club. Oh, please. I mean, it's a funny line. Okay. But that's another thing I wanted to bring up. Is uplift. She says opposite things about that too. Oh, you silly person, you wrote me a letter and saying you weren't lifted up. Silly you. And then she kind of takes it back and says, well, if your heart were in the right place, your heart would have been lifted up. You turn the page and she says, okay, everybody wants to be lifted up and that's a good thing. So where are we? If somebody reads Flannery O'Connor and they're not lifted up, what then? And Flannery's answer is seems to be, well, your heart's just not in the right place. The problem with you is you got things wrong with you. If your heart were in the right place, then you would like all of my literature. Maybe a little better if she would say, well, there are lots of writers using different strategies. Maybe you don't like what I'm doing. It's what I'm good at. Try something else. I still want you to get a really good, valuable uplift out of reading literature, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe mine just doesn't do for you. It works for some people, but maybe not for you. Leave me alone. I mean, she could say it a whole lot more nicely than she's saying it here. Can you imagine going to somebody and saying, and they tell you they don't like your stuff, and your answer is, well, obviously your soul is deeply flawed, and you're just hardly worth allowing to live because you don't get how wonderful I am. She's almost saying that. This is poor little modest Flannery O'Connor who has no idea what she's doing giving a talk like this, right? Sometimes she's really she's really sure of herself. Okay. Um, okay. The only difference that I have found between the two versions um, of the essay and the Mystery and Manners and the Library of America edition is that the Library of America edition has an additional paragraph at the end, which, it's not that important. It just kind of says, okay, someday talking about Southern writers may just be a matter of talking about the past. We may become, Southern literature may become irrelevant, just a historical thing. It went on for a while and then it ended. And maybe that's the case. I don't know. Maybe it is not the way people write now. I would just put that back under the same heading with the comment about the only novel that's worth writing is the one that hadn't been written yet. Literature is going to change. It's going to adapt to something. It's going to have to change with circumstances. And there are not timeless rules for how how a novel must be written. You can still read that as open-minded, forward-looking, rather than despairing. I made a vague note to myself that there was something more to say about the William Faulkner quote, and now I've forgotten how much of it I've already said it. She said kinds of opposite things about Faulkner. I guess this is one of the things I started with. The middle of page 18 in the Library of America. Um, and this gets quoted all the time, so let's go back to it. There's another reason in the Southern situation that makes for a tendency toward the grotesque, and this is the prevalence of good Southern writers. Oh, really? There are a whole bunch of them? Why can't you name them? I think the writer is initially set going by literature more than by life. Oh, really? You don't just look around at what's going on the farm and write it down? You don't look at your society and how people talk? No, you're saying you read literature and that's what inspires your literature, not real life. This is the person who says the real goal is realism, right? Okay. Next sentence. When there are many writers all employing the same idiom, all looking out on more or less the same social scene, the individual writer will have to be more than ever careful that he isn't just doing badly what has already been done to completion. Okay, I get that. If you agree that William Faulkner is the great master and he did everything right and he's beyond everybody, then you might play around a little bit with trying to write like William Faulkner, but if you got any smarts, you say, okay, I'm going to do something else. And let me say this about the relationship between Flannery O'Connor and William Faulkner from my own personal experience. Okay. 20 years ago, I tried, well, I did team teach a course with the Faulkner expert on campus, John D. Cox, um, about O'Connor and Faulkner. After about a month, we were bringing our little flags of surrender to class each week to say, uh, we give up. We see nothing but vast differences between these two writers. And isn't it remarkable that people try to compare them? And sorry, we're two people who thought that could be done, but this is it's mostly contrast, not similarity. For example, the concept of time. Faulkner is famous for the notion that you never escape the past. The past rules everything. Our lives are completely controlled by stuff that happened way back when. Flannery O'Connor writes as if the world were created in 1945, and everything about that we just have these hazy, flawed memories of. But real life is what's happening since World War II ended. That's where it's at. And it's a very, very different attitude. So, yeah, they're both writing about the South, but you can say that in the first 5 seconds of class. And then you're on to, well, gee, aren't these some more really different works that we have tried to yoke together for tonight's class? Nobody wants his mule and wagon stalled on the same track the Dixie Limited is roaring down. That's one of her famous one-liners, and people refer to William Faulkner as the Dixie Limited all the time when they're talking about, at least when they're talking about O'Connor. The Dixie Limited is the name of one of the trains that Flannery would ride on to get from Milledgeville to Iowa City back in graduate school. So she spent a lot of time on the Dixie Limited, and I have no idea why that matters for anything. It just every time I see the Dixie Limited, I think, oh, there really was one, and Flannery actually rode on that train. Okay. What else, folks? Yeah, Katie, was there something that you wanted to bring up
Yeah.
tonight before
Well,
we
you're
start?
talking about the one-liners that everyone, you didn't do the Christ-centered, Christ-haunted one.
Yeah, where is that? Can you find that passage?
Yeah, I just did a printout. So it's about halfway through whenever I'm asked why
Oh, yeah.
Southern writers have a penchant for freaks. It's in that same paragraph, but it goes on to talk about, um, I think it is safe to say that while the South is hardly Christ-centered, it is most certainly Christ-haunted. The Southerner who isn't convinced of it is very much afraid that he may have been formed in the image and likeness of God. Ghosts can be very fierce and instructive. They cast strange shadows, particularly in our literature. In any case, it is when the freak can be sensed as a figure for our essential displacement that he attains some depth in literature. So, I mean, I've heard the Christ-centered, Christ-haunted, but I'd never seen this line about ghosts referred to.
Ghosts, which just
Topic.
fits into a whole
Topic.
school of literary criticism. Yeah.
Ghosts can be very fierce and instructive. They cast strange shadows, particularly in our literature. What do you think she's referring to there?
Well, what is she not referring to? I mean, I think I've learned from you that there are all sorts of ways in which Flannery is talking about the past, and what you try to repress from the past, and you can't escape it, and you can't really live your life as if the world were created in 1945. And that lie we tell ourselves is going to bite us regularly. I mean, you can make it ecological, you can make it racial, in all sorts of ways. And she's making it about religion.
Mhm.
There are lots of ways in which you can say exactly what you try to repress becomes more powerful.
Mm,
because you repressed it.
mm,
You want to make something powerful? You want to be, kicked around by something? Pretend it's not there,
mm,
and it will grow in significance on you. Um, yeah, that's what I have to say about that. What is that not about? What can
mm,
you not say as a version of a ghost? I mean,
mm,
I have scoffed at talking about Flannery O'Connor and ghosts on occasion. And as soon as I say that, I think of, half a dozen ghosts that rule over a given story. Or my God, old Tarwater and the Violent Buried Away is a ghost who's running the whole show, presumably from his grave. So of course, Flannery is thinking about that sort of thing, and it probably does link her to Faulkner in ways that I wasn't smart enough to, figure out 20 years ago. So that's just like Flannery to say, I'm not going to do anything like Faulkner. And then if you'd study her long enough and think about it the right way, you would see all sorts of interesting similarities that people should be writing dissertations about, and so on and so on and so on.
mm,
Uh, I will bring up a line that is particularly um, troubling to me and see if anybody wants to enlighten me about it. Oh gosh, where did it go? It's this passage about Henry James. Oh yes, this page 819. I found myself, I'm trying to write a paper about Wise Blood for the Milan conference. It's hard to write papers, you know? Um, and I'm going on and on about the porter at the beginning of Wise Blood. Okay, and then I come across this in this essay. Does this have something to do with Wiseblood, the Porter and Wiseblood? 1960, when she's writing this essay, is also the year that she has to write her new introduction to the second edition of Wiseblood so she can get the copyright renewed. She did it unwilling, but I bet she reread the novel, right? Okay, anyway, she's talking about her role as a potential handmaid of literature, and she doesn't like it. I mean, the handmaid to the culture, somebody who serves, servant to the culture, giving the culture what it needs. I've come to think of this handmaid as being very like the Negro porter who set Henry James's dressing case down in a puddle when James was leaving the hotel in Charleston. James was then obliged to sit in the crowded carriage with the satchel on his knees. And through the South, the poor man was ignobly served, and he afterwards wrote that our domestic servants were the last people in the world who should be employed in the way they were, for they were by nature unfitted for it. The case is the same with the novelist. When he is given the function of domestic, he is going to set the public's luggage down in puddle after puddle. Well, that's a charming little anecdote about Henry James. And, first of all, I say, oh, what's the context here about the Henry James story? Was Henry James saying that uh, Black folks need better jobs? They need, self-determination and more options? And one reason is that they um, they're not going to be docile servants. They're not going to just serve straightforwardly and be pushed around that way. Or is this just a really racist statement? And then I go back to Wiseblood and I say, how do I put these two together? And I'm going to say something about it, but it could be better. Okay. How do you put these together? At the beginning of Wiseblood, Hazel Motes pays no attention to anything other than the porter, a black man who's wearing a white jacket. He's got a uniform, and they're at odds all the time over what? Hazel Motes wants to criticize the porter because he's running away from his past. Well, that's exactly what Hazel Motes is doing. He's going to Talkenham so he can get away from his past, right? And he should know it. Hazelnuts is being a total hypocrite. How are we supposed to feel about the porter in Wiseblood? Are we supposed to see him as an example of an African American worker who's pulling himself up by his bootstraps through this opportunity to be a porter on a train, which is a step up from other options? Are we supposed to be rooting for him? Good for you. Get out of the small town where you were born. Go, go, go. Or are we supposed to see something wrong with the porter? Yeah, the porter becomes a pinpoint of light for Hazel Motes in chapter 1. And chapter 14 of Wiseblood is about a pinpoint of light. It's Mrs. Flood seeing Hazel Motes as a pinpoint of light. Hazel Motes in chapter 1 is anything but a pinpoint of light for anybody. He is just a total jerk, you know. And he's been transformed in 14 chapters because somebody's able to look at him and see something um, of value in him, at least, deserved or not. And it's almost like Hazel is turned into the porter by chapter 14. And if that's the case, what does it mean that Flannery O'Connor is comparing herself to the porter, somebody who's being asked to do things that shouldn't be asked to do? I don't know. There's my dilemma. Trying to put those things together, and then of course it's all going to get translated into Italian, so they'll probably think I'm crazy when I get through going through this overcomplicated little paragraph about the porter. But that's what I'm working on right now when I'm not thinking about this. It's complicated, and it's I'd never thought it took me a long time to see Wiseblood having anything like the structure of the Violent Buried Way. The Violent Buried Way comes out and just announces in the first paragraph, here's the whole plot. And dear reader, you're going to forget I told you this, so that by the time you get to the end of the novel and it goes right back where it started, you're going to have forgotten that I told you that this is where it's heading from the very beginning. It's like almost a trick to give the whole plot away. Wiseblood ends where it begins. It makes a big circle, kind of. And there are so many similarities in chapter 14 to chapter 1 that something has to be going on and has something to do in Flannery's head with Henry James and his porter who put his suitcase down in a puddle. And well, I'm going to be struggling with that right along with compassion and empathy in the coming days. It just illustrates that the more you think about anything, the more confused you can get about it, and the more possibilities you can think of that might explain it. Okay, Heidi's got a comment. Oh yeah, I think yeah, it's probably from the American Scene.
Yeah, so she actually, I have resources of being,
Uh-huh.
and so she underlined it. Yeah. So I think of the imitable detachment with which, at the very moment he spoke, the Negro porter engaged at the door of the conveyance put straight down into the mud of the road the dressing bag I was obliged. Yeah, so it's just interesting to see how much he might have already put some spin on it and how much Flannery's wanting to read into it. So yeah, that might be kind of fun to see that firsthand, to see what Henry James put into it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So marginal lining and check marks, page
The American Scene.
423. Yep.
American Scene, and you found it in the book about the library.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. That struck
Okay,
me too.
we're doing my research paper for me tonight.
Why not?
Why
But no,
not?
that passage really did strike me too, though, and I immediately thought of Wiseblood as well, Bruce. So that's great.
Good, good. And people who have been through the essays in special collections say that Flannery had all these paragraphs that didn't have that much to do with each other, and when they weren't obvious, they weren't tightly logically connected. And when it was time for her to put together her next talk, she would go back to all these old versions of papers and she would borrow bits and pieces from different talks and glum them together. Okay, I guess I think that way, so I'm fine with that. It makes it tough for the folks who did Mystery and Manners. They made it look like she wasn't terribly repetitious and that each essay kind of crystallized. And there's plenty of evidence that that wasn't the case, that she rewrote, she threw things out and put things in to adapt to her audience at the very least, every time she had a new speaking engagement. And she might reuse the same title, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what people got. That there's, I did not see any significant difference reading the Library of America version of this essay and then the Mystery and Manners version of the essay. Seemingly, they were basically the same. It's certainly the case for next month. There's no difference in versions of An Introduction to a Memoir of Mary Ann. Someday we'll have to talk about one of the essays where no two versions are, the versions don't overlap with each other much. I remember being invited to respond to a tape of Flannery reading one of her essays. And the tape, and I've forgotten now which essay this is, the tape that was played for us had very little to do with either of the published versions. And we're all sitting there with our little papers where we're about to respond to this thing that maybe, and we're waiting for her to say the lines that we wanted to talk about. And that was a nervous few minutes waiting to see if Flannery was going to use the paragraph. It was a lesson in how Flannery thought, how she adapted from audience to audience to audience, and how much variation there is in her texts. It's a lot looser than the impression you get from either the Library of America or from Mystery and Manners. And I guess in a way we should credit the Sally Fitzgerald for really doing a lot of work to put things in what looks like order. Sometimes she even seems to question it because, for her own work, which is in Mystery and Manners, that's just little bits and pieces from all over the place. There is no essay called On Her Own Work. She just had this grab bag of things that she thought were cool things that Flannery said somewhere, and she just put them all together and gave it a title. Okay, into that thought.
Did you have something, Charlotte, that you wanted to say? No.
No.
No. I have one, on this topic of the talk versus the essay. I think that's fascinating. So one thing, do we know of a recording of this lecture? I guess Heidi said it was in Macon at Wesleyan.
I don't know. Somebody ought to run over to Macon and ask them to
Yeah, it'd be really cool to track.
if they have a tape.
But also, it seems like the gags are like one-liners that she thinks that audience might laugh at, And so I was thinking about the School of Southern Degeneracy, and there's just like a weirdness to this. Every time I heard about the School of Southern Degeneracy, I felt like Brer Rabbit stuck on the tar baby. So she's saying like, oh, they're purveying the South for people outside the South to make us look bad. And then she takes this kind of quintessential Southern trope that's purveyed to make people look bad. I mean, it's just so weird. And I'm the Brer Rabbit.
Yeah, and
I'm the Brer Rabbit.
Uncle Remus was very nationally popular.
Right.
Talk about that as something that was just popular in the
The Song of the South came out when she was in Iowa. And, so the Disney version of the Remus stuff, but he was from Eatonton.
Uh-huh.
right? Joel Chandler Harris. And so she knows this is like a local reference, but it's also how the South is represented in Hollywood, you know? And she's identifying with this character who some people think of as a kind of trickster figure, as a kind of in Eatonton today, a lawn jockey, you know? And it's just so interesting that she's identifying with this figure.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't ever recall Flannery O'Connor saying anything that wasn't positive about um, Uncle Remus, Joel Chandler Harris.
yeah.
I
Yeah, I'm sure she
think she enjoyed those stories.
did she I was trying to track, did she see it when she was in Iowa?
Oh, I don't know about that movie. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because the movie was a big deal, you know,
Yeah.
and she was in
And
Iowa.
Disney has totally suppressed it now, right? The only place
Yeah.
you can see
Yeah.
it, go to Eatonton to the Uncle Remus Museum, which is like a shrine to Song of the South, and it's a it's a very questionable setup they got going there. Yeah.
Yeah, and the whole like glorification of this figure, I mean, the way that they use him in Eatonton is like, you know, it reminds me of the artificial N-word, you know, and like what she's saying about that because it's on YouTube. Okay.
Oh, is it? Can you see Song of the South on YouTube?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
in fragmented videos, but yeah.
Oh gosh.
yeah. But you can go and see, I think you can see it in Eatonton at that museum.
Oh,
So,
you probably can. You can probably just say, I
yeah.
want to watch
They-
Song of the South for the 5,000th time, and they'll,
yeah.
They sell
But
it on DVD there.
yeah, they still got
but I just, you know, I mean, I'm just kind of fascinated with you know, using those cultural materials in that way for that audience. What is
Mm.
that? You know, is that supposed to be funny? Like
Yeah,
me on the tar baby.
yeah.
It's like the mule on the train.
Hmm.
And she's feeling that way when she thinks about Southern degeneracy, and it's not a good thing, I would say. I don't want to be thought of as the tar baby, right? As the Brer Rabbit stuck on the tar baby. Whenever I think about that social degeneracy, Southern Gothic, I see myself pervade the way that these, you know, and because Alice Walker has a very famous essay about her experience with the Brer Rabbit stuff, and it's really poignant. Like so those tales were circulating well before he wrote them down.
Hmm.
They were circulating in this area,
Hmm.
and they were, you know, he wrote them down, and then the film, and they were so excited. Her family was so excited to go see it because they grew up on these stories, and they felt like someone had stolen their culture and made them look bad. And so if she's identifying with that here, with that idea of like taking my culture and making me look bad or perverting it, stealing it from me, you know,
Hmm. I
I
bet
think that's
you
just
if we could
interesting.
get our hands on Bill Sessions's biography,
Yeah.
he
We were
probably
just talking
figured
about
out
that. Can
somewhere,
we,
let's go steal it.
we need to
We can
ask,
figure out where it is. He probably figured out every movie Flannery O'Connor ever saw in Iowa City. That just sounds like the sort of thing he would do.
someone said Sarah Gordon.
That's right. Let's ask Sarah Gordon.
Yeah.
That
Can you her for us?
the Song of the South.
Ask her if she has it to just donate it to special collections.
Oh, I wonder if that's legal. Oh well, whoever held it back, held us back on that. No, I didn't say that. We'll inquire about whether it would be
But
legal
she'll just let us
to
look at
donate
it. I know Charlotte wants to see it.
a copy. Well, I bet you do, don't you? Yeah, we all want to see that. Yeah. Okay, don't spend money on it. All right. Okay.
Oh, ever saw Calamity Jane? Yeah, I want to know what movies she saw. I'd be really interested in that.
Same.
And, you know, I mean, also just thinking about Faulkner, you know, she's well aware of Faulkner's Hollywood career, I assume, right?
Must have been.
Yeah. So how is that playing out? How the South is being purveyed, not just in literature, but in
There's a
film?
whole nother field Flannery O'Connor in the movies.
Mhm.
And most people, I mean, most people who have tried to get started on that, they tell me at some point how frustrated they are because they can't figure out anything about the basic thing about what movie she saw.
Mm.
And I just thought, well, Bill Sessions, it just seems like that's the sort of thing he would do to figure out how to, you know, what were all the movies that were ever showing in Iowa City, and did we have any scrap of information that she went to the to this movie or this movie or this movie? And there are references to movie stars in the letters and the and drafts and there's something to be figured out here, but we're still stuck at square one as far as I can see.
So maybe the question isn't, because we were with that one film, with, Frank Sinatra or whatever.
I still want to see that, the Frank
That's
Sinatra movie.
good. And
What's
she
the name of it again?
It's called Meet Danny Rose.
Meet Danny Rose.
Yeah.
We're getting a little afield now. Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, it's a film that
Movies and Flannery O'Connor.
in Good Man is Hard to Find. They do a version of Good Man is Hard to Find, a duet with Frank Sinatra. Sings it.
Frank Sinatra hated the movie so much that he suppressed it, right?
Because it
And
was
nobody could see this movie.
so the needle and haystack, like we were gonna go through all the Milledgeville Union recorders that are on microfiche and see if it was playing in Milledgeville. Why? Why do we have to prove? Why do we need a smoking gun? It was at the same time. Maybe she never even saw it, but maybe she saw a trailer.
Yeah.
Maybe everybody was talking about it. It was in the air. It's a popular film,
Sure.
had major stars in it. One can assume.
Georgia. I mean, it's like Gone with the Wind. Do you really need to
Yeah,
know?
do you really need to
Flannery
show
O'Connor
her
saw
reading it?
Gone with the
She
Wind.
referred to it.
It's
So same
just
with
really
Brer Rabbit.
culture. So
Yeah,
little
with Brer
reference like, she feels like Brer Rabbit in here could be pretty meaningful if
That's
you
what I'm
think
thinking.
about it for a
Got excited when I saw that.
And so you do go for it. Oh,
All
man.
you need is a little
All
trace,
you need is just the first thread, and it's
just a little bit.
like
And
Enoch's
good enough
rug.
for
It
me.
just unravels.
Ghosts and Brer Rabbit, I got two.
You got two Brer Rabbits now.
No, I got
the
the word
reference to the
goats.
Brer
I
Rabbit
got the word
in the
goats. That
letters.
was cool.
Yeah. Okay, folks. Well, we have run over now, and go think about compassion and empathy and movies and whatever else we didn't finish off tonight, and we will pick it off in a month. And I feel all the sympathy in the world for all you folks who have to finish the semester. I'm just sitting around here eating bonbons and relaxing in retirement and ha ha. And thank you all for coming, and we will see you next month.
We will see you.
Maybe
Thanks,
in the fall.
everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.